First contact in crisis. The void between stars held secrets that even the Etherian science vessel Luminous Seeker had never encountered in its centuries of exploration. Chief Researcher Valen stood at the observation deck, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with growing concern as she studied the approaching anomaly. The massive wave of quantum distortions had already consumed 3 star systems, defying every known law of physics in their database. Status report, she commanded, her crystalline form reflecting the emergency lights that had begun to flash throughout the ship. The quantum wave continues to accelerate, Chief, responded Senior Analyst Zordix, his own patterns dimming with worry. Our latest calculations suggest it's adapting to our presence. The barrier we deployed, it's being absorbed. The Luminous Seeker represented the pinnacle of Etherian technology, a civilization that had mastered quantum engineering millennia ago. Yet here they were, running from a phenomenon that treated their most advanced defenses like tissue paper. How long until it overtakes us? At current velocity, Zorix's voice trailed off. 3 hours, 17 minutes. Valen's secondary nervous system pulsed with resignation. They had been tracking the anomaly for weeks, watching it consume everything in its path. Their warnings to the Etherian High Council had gone unheeded. After all, what could threaten a species that had transcended traditional matter? Now they were about to discover the answer, and no one would be left to report it. The ship's sensors suddenly blared to life, startling the entire bridge crew. Unknown spatial signatures detected, announced the navigation officer. Multiple vessels approaching from Sector 7. More survivors, Valen asked, though she knew better. They had already encountered the remains of other civilizations that had tried to study the wave. None had survived. No, these are different. The energy signatures are incredibly crude. They're using some form of nuclear fusion propulsion, but the configuration is unlike anything in our database. Valen felt her crystalline structure vibrate with surprise as the unknown ships appeared on their main display. They were ugly things, all sharp angles and exposed metal, more like ancient mining vessels than proper spacecraft. Yet they moved with purpose, forming a precise formation between the Luminous Seeker and the approaching quantum wave. "We're being hailed," reported Communications Officer Irith. "The signal is primitive, audio and visual only. Put it through." The holographic display materialized, showing a sight that made several crew members pulse with shock. The being on the screen was clearly organic, a bipedal creature with dark skin and curly hair, wearing some sort of synthetic uniform. "Etherian vessel, this is Captain Maya Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force ship Hyperion. We've detected the quantum cascade wave approaching your position. We're here to help." Valen's patterns flickered with disbelief. These were Deathworlders, creatures that had evolved on a planet's surface rather than in the pure vacuum of space. How could they possibly? Another alarm screamed through the ship. The wave had accelerated again. With respect, Valen responded, trying to keep the dismissal from her tone. "Our civilization has spent millennia studying quantum mechanics. This phenomenon defies all known." "Yeah, we noticed that too," Captain Rodriguez interrupted, showing none of the reverence most species displayed toward the Etherians. She was already manipulating what appeared to be primitive manual controls. "The wave's not following any rules because it's not from our universe. It's punching through from another dimension where physics works differently. Traditional quantum barriers just give it more energy to consume." Valen's primary consciousness froze. How could you possibly know that? A slight smile crossed the human's face. "Because we almost caused the same thing 70 years ago, when we were first experimenting with dimensional drive technology. Nearly took out half the solar system before we figured out how to contain it. Trust me, conventional defenses won't work, but we got something that will." Permission to send over a technical team. The Etherian crew looked to Valen, their patterns cycling through shades of uncertainty. Their entire civilization was built on the assumption that they had reached the pinnacle of scientific understanding. The idea that these primitive Deathworlders might know something they didn't was almost impossible to process. Another surge from the wave rocked the ship, and Valen felt her crystalline form resonate with its power. They were out of options and out of time. "Permission granted, Captain Rodriguez. Please, hurry." The next few minutes were controlled chaos as 3 human shuttles docked with the luminous seeker. The technical team that emerged was a stark contrast to the elegant crystalline forms of the Aetherian crew, bulky in their environmental suits, carrying cases of what looked like crude mechanical equipment. Their leader, a compact woman with graying hair and laugh lines around her eyes, introduced herself as Dr. Sarah Chen, head of Earth's Dimensional Containment Division. She took one look at the luminous seeker's quantum core and let out a low whistle. "Beautiful engineering," she commented, studying the crystalline matrices with genuine appreciation. "But it's exactly the wrong approach for this situation. The wave feeds on quantum coherence. The more ordered and elegant the energy pattern, the more it can consume." "Then how do we stop it?" Valen asked, watching as the humans began unpacking their equipment. The devices they assembled looked crude, almost primitive, yet there was something about their configuration that made her sensor patterns tingle uncomfortably. "We fight chaos with chaos," Dr. Chen explained, connecting what appeared to be a series of mismatched generators. "Quantum mechanics hates being observed, right? So we're going to observe the hell out of it." Multiple overlapping fields of deliberately inconsistent measurements, all contradicting each other. It's like trying to eat a meal while someone keeps changing what's on your plate. Valen's patterns pulsed with confusion. That's impossible. It violates every principle off." "Exactly." Dr. Chen's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. "That's why it works. The wave expects nice, orderly quantum structures it can consume. Instead, we're going to give it the equivalent of quantum indigestion." The wave was less than an hour away now, its front edge beginning to interfere with the luminous seeker's outer sensors. Valen watched as the humans worked with practiced efficiency, their movements suggesting they had done this before. Their technology was a bizarre mix of advanced theoretical physics and what looked like repurposed industrial equipment. "Ready for primary activation," Dr. Chen announced. "Fair warning, this is going to feel really weird for anyone with quantum-sensitive biology. Might want to dampen your receptors." Before Valen could respond, the human devices hummed to life. The sensation was indescribable, like having every one of her atomic bonds simultaneously questioned and reassured. Around the bridge, other Aetherians swayed as their crystalline forms tried to process the contradictory signals. On the main display, the approaching wave began to show signs of disturbance. Where before it had been a smooth front of quantum destruction, now it appeared to stumble, forming eddies and whirlpools of confused energy. "It's working," Zorix reported, his patterns bright with amazement. "The wave's coherence is dropping by 17%. 23%. Crank it up," Dr. Chen ordered her team. "Full power to the uncertainty fields. Let's show this interdimensional incident why you don't mess with applied quantum chaos theory." The wave's front edge reached them and shattered. Where it had consumed entire star systems, now it broke against the shield of pure quantum uncertainty like waves against a cliff. Valen watched in awe as the phenomenon that had defeated their most advanced technology was undone by what amounted to purposeful scientific nonsense. As the remnants of the wave dissipated into harmless background radiation, Valen turned to Dr. Chen. How did your species even conceive of such a solution?" The human scientist smiled. "Sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to stop thinking like you know everything. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our willingness to try things that shouldn't work, just to see what happens." Valen's patterns shifted to a deep hue of respect. Perhaps it was time for the Aetherian civilization to reconsider its assumptions about primitive species. After all, any race that could weaponize quantum uncertainty clearly had something to teach them about the true nature of the universe. "Captain Rodriguez," she called over the comlink. I believe my people would be very interested in establishing formal diplomatic relations with Earth. It seems we have much to learn from each other." "Glad to hear it," the human captain replied. "Though fair warning, wait until you see how we solved our gravity drive problems. Your quantum physicists might need to sit down for that one." As the bridge erupted in relieved laughter, both human and Aetherian, Valen realized that this crisis had given birth to something unprecedented, a partnership between the most advanced civilization in known space and a species that had turned their own primitive understanding into a strength. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor after all. The human solution. 3 days after the quantum wave incident, the Aetherian High Council chamber was in an uproar. The crystalline architecture of the vast hall, usually pulsing with harmonious light patterns, now flickered with chaotic colors reflecting the agitation of its occupants. At the center of the storm stood Captain Maya Rodriguez and Dr. Sarah Chen, the first humans to ever address the council. "Preposterous," declared Council Elder Vexthor, his crystalline form blazing with indignation. "You expect us to believe that more of these quantum waves are forming, that our entire dimension is under threat?" Maya stepped forward, her dark eyes reflecting the swirling lights around her. "The wave that nearly destroyed the luminous seeker wasn't an isolated incident. Our long-range sensors have detected similar dimensional fractures forming throughout this sector of space. We estimate you have 3 months before they begin threatening populated systems." The council chamber erupted in a cascade of flickering patterns, the Aetherian equivalent of worried murmurs. High Counselor Zareth raised her elegant crystalline form to its full height, commanding silence. "Even if what you say is true," Zareth's tone carried millennia of authority, "why should we trust the warnings of a species that barely understands quantum mechanics? Your own civilization still relies on crude fusion power." Dr. Chen cleared her throat. "With respect, High Counselor, sometimes understanding too much can be as dangerous as understanding too little. Your civilization's mastery of quantum mechanics is precisely what makes you vulnerable to these waves." She activated a holographic display, showing the complex data Earth's sensors had gathered. "These aren't natural phenomena. They're echoes of dimensional experiments being conducted in parallel universes, thousands of them, all bleeding through into our reality at once. The more sophisticated your quantum technology, the more attractive a target you become, and you believe your primitive methods can protect us." The skepticism in Vexthor's voice was palpable. Maya shared a knowing look with Sarah before responding. "We can do better than protect you. We can help you adapt your technology to resist dimensional interference completely. But it will require something that might be difficult for your people." "And what is that?" Zareth asked. "You'll have to unlearn some things. Except that sometimes, elegant solutions aren't the best solutions. Our quantum uncertainty shields work precisely because they're messy, unpredictable, and technically shouldn't work at all." The council chamber filled with discordant light patterns, the Aetherian equivalent of outraged guests. The idea of deliberately introducing chaos into their perfectly ordered quantum systems was almost blasphemous. "Show them," Maya nodded to Sarah. Dr. Chen activated another hologram, this one showing the interior of a human quantum drive. The Aetherian Council leaned forward despite themselves, their patterns shifting from outrage to fascination as they studied the bizarre configuration. "This is how we achieve faster-than-light travel," Sarah explained. "Instead of trying to perfectly manipulate quantum states, we create controlled chaos. The drive works because it shouldn't work. It's so nonsensical that it actually fools the universe into letting us slip through its cracks." "Impossible," whispered one of the council members. "The energy requirements alone are minimal," Maya finished, "because we're not fighting against universal laws. We're exploiting their blind spots. It's the same principle we use to stop the quantum wave. Sometimes the best way to win is to change the rules of the game entirely." High Counselor Zareth's patterns had shifted to a deep, contemplative blue. "You realize what you're suggesting?" To implement these changes across our entire civilization, it would mean abandoning theoretical foundations we've relied on for millennia. Yes, Sarah agreed. But it would also mean survival. The waves are coming, High Counselor. They're drawn to advanced quantum technology like moths to a flame. You can either adapt or watch everything you've built be consumed. The council chamber fell silent. Maya could almost feel the weight of history in that moment, a civilization at the crossroads between pride and survival. Finally, Zareth spoke again. Chief Researcher Valen's report from the Luminous Seeker incident was compelling. She claims your methods, while unorthodox, demonstrated an understanding of quantum mechanics that approaches the mystical. Not mystical, Sarah corrected gently. Just different. Humans had to find our own path to the stars. We couldn't rely on elegant theories or perfect mathematics. We had to embrace the chaos, learn to dance with it instead of trying to control it. And now you offer to teach us this dance. There was something like amusement in Zareth's tone. We offer partnership, Maya said firmly. Earth's shipyards are already adapting to produce quantum uncertainty generators at scale, but we need your expertise to refine the technology, to find the perfect balance between order and chaos. Together, we might not just survive these dimensional incursions, we might learn to prevent them entirely. The council members' patterns swirled with complex emotions as they communicated in their silent, luminescent language. Maya held her breath, knowing that this moment could define the future relationship between their species. To think, Vexthor mused, his earlier hostility fading, that we might learn something fundamental about the universe from a species that still inhabits planetary surfaces. The universe, Sarah smiled, loves irony almost as much as it loves chaos. High Counselor Zareth rose, her crystalline form pulsing with decisive purpose. The Council will need time to fully consider the implications of your proposal. However, given the immediate threat, she paused, her patterns shifting to a formal configuration. Captain Rodriguez, Dr. Chen, the Etherian Collective formally requests Earth's assistance in this matter. We would be honored to learn your methods of quantum uncertainty manipulation. Maya bowed slightly, hiding her relief. The honor is ours, High Counselor. Though I should warn you, human teaching methods can be rather unconventional. After seeing your quantum drive design, Zareth's patterns flickered with what might have been amusement. I believe we are prepared for unconventional. As the council session ended and plans were made to begin the massive technological adaptation, Maya couldn't help but marvel at the situation. Humanity, the upstart species that had brute forced their way into space travel, was about to help reshape the technology of the most advanced civilization in known space. Sometimes, she reflected, the best solutions came from the most unexpected places. The universe had taught humanity that lesson long ago, and now it was time to pass that wisdom on to others, even if those others had to unlearn a few thousand years of certainty first. Unity forged in stardust. The massive experimental chamber aboard the joint Human-Etherian Research Station, Convergence, hummed with an energy that set both species' nerves on edge. Dr. Sarah Chen stood beside senior researcher Kelleran, watching as their latest attempt at integrating human chaos theory with Etherian quantum technology unfolded. Power levels are holding steady, reported Lieutenant James Morgan from his station. Quantum uncertainty field at 60% and rising. The young officer's fingers danced across his console, making minute adjustments to the experimental apparatus. Kelleran's crystalline form pulsed with concern. The containment field is showing signs of stress. Perhaps we should. A surge of energy interrupted him, sending cascading waves of purple-white light through the chamber. Emergency alarms blared as the experimental quantum core began to oscillate wildly. Don't shut it down, Sarah called out, her eyes fixed on the readings. This is exactly what we want. But the harmonics are completely unstable, Kelleran protested. The whole system could collapse. Trust me. Sarah's voice was calm despite the chaos erupting around them. Watch the pattern. The chamber filled with what looked like lightning made of quantum probability. where Aetherian technology usually produced precise, crystalline structures of energy. This was a storm of possibilities all existing simultaneously. It should have torn itself apart, yet somehow, impossibly, it held together. "Incredible," whispered Kelleran, his patterns shifting to deep azure with wonder. "The field it's creating its own stability through controlled instability. Like a hurricane," Sarah finished, grinning. "Powerful, chaotic, but with an eye of perfect calm at its center. This is how we're going to save your worlds, Kelleran. Not by fighting chaos, but by embracing it." The experiment continued for another 20 minutes before they powered it down. As the energy dissipated, Sarah could see the change in the Aetherian research team's patterns. Where before there had been skepticism and barely concealed disdain for human methods, now there was genuine curiosity. "Dr. Chen," Kelleran's voice carried a new note of respect, "I believe we owe you and your team an apology. We assumed your species' approach to quantum mechanics was primitive. We were wrong." Sarah shook her head, smiling. "Don't apologize. Your way isn't wrong. It's just different. Humans had to get creative because we didn't have your natural advantages. We couldn't sense quantum fields or manipulate them instinctively like Aetherians can. We had to find workarounds, tricks, ways to make the universe play by our rules instead of trying to master its own. And in doing so, you discovered something we never could." Kelleran's patterns shifted thoughtfully. "Our very nature made us blind to these possibilities. We sought perfection, harmony, while we embraced imperfection and turned it into a strength," Sarah finished. "But now we need both approaches, your precision combined with our chaos. That's the only way we'll create a defense system strong enough to protect against the dimensional incursions." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Captain Rodriguez and High Commander Televan. The Aetherian officer's patterns were pulsing rapidly, a sign of urgent news. "We've detected 3 new quantum waves forming," Televan announced without preamble. "One is on a direct course for the Aetherian core worlds." Sarah felt her heart sink. "How long?" 2 weeks at most. "And this one? It's different. Stronger. More coherent than anything we've seen before." "Then we'd better hope this experiment was more than just a pretty light show," Maya said grimly. "What's the status of the defense network?" Sarah pulled up the latest data on the main display. "We've got prototype generators installed on 6 Aetherian vessels and 4 human ships. The integration is working better than expected. Turns out your crystalline technology is surprisingly adaptable once you stop trying to make it perfect. But it's not enough." Kelleran's patterns had shifted to a worried violet. "Even if the generators work as intended, we'd need hundreds to create a barrier large enough to protect our core systems. Then we get creative." Maya's voice had that tone Sarah recognized, the one that meant she was about to suggest something either brilliant or insane. "Usually both. Your people can link their consciousness across vast distances, right? Create shared quantum networks." "Yes, but..." Televan stopped, his pattern suddenly brightening with realization. "You're not suggesting..." "Oh yes, she is," Sarah grinned, catching Maya's meaning. "Instead of trying to build a massive network of generators, we use your quantum consciousness link to synchronize a smaller number. Create a cascading effect." "Impossible," Kelleran stated, but his patterns showed interest rather than dismissal. "The energy requirements alone would be massive," Sarah agreed, "if we tried to do it the conventional way. But what if we used the same principle as our experiment? Create controlled chaos at key points in space, then let your quantum network guide it, shape it. A quantum storm." Televan's patterns pulsed with excitement. "Controlled by Aetherian consciousness, but powered by human chaos theory. It's elegant in its own way." "Elegant chaos," Maya smiled. "Sounds like humanity in a nutshell." The next days were a blur of activity. Every available shipyard in both human and Aetherian space was converted to produce the specialized quantum uncertainty generators. Engineering teams worked around the clock, combining Aetherian crystalline technology with human-designed chaos inductors. Sarah found herself working closely with Kelleran and his team, teaching them to think differently about quantum mechanics. It wasn't easy. Centuries of ingrained knowledge had to be unlearned, assumptions challenged. But the Aetherians proved to be quick studies once they got past their initial resistance. "It's strange," Kelleran commented one evening as they reviewed the latest test results. "All our lives, we believed that mastery of the quantum realm meant imposing order on chaos. Yet here we are, learning to create chaos purposefully." "The universe doesn't care about our beliefs," Sarah replied, making a minor adjustment to one of the generators. "It just is. Sometimes the best way to protect order is to master chaos itself." As their deadline approached, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in what they'd accomplished. Humans and Aetherians working together, each contributing their unique strengths to create something entirely new. Whether it would be enough to stop the approaching quantum wave remained to be seen. But one thing was certain. They'd already achieved something remarkable. Two species, separated by vast gulfs of biology and philosophy, had found common ground in the face of crisis. Perhaps that, even more than their technological breakthrough, was the real victory. When stars align, the combined fleet of human and Aetherian ships hung in space like a web of starlight, positioned at strategic points around the Aetherian core systems. On the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship Hyperion, Captain Maya Rodriguez watched as the quantum wave approached, a wall of reality-bending energy that made the sensors scream in protest. "All ships report ready," Lieutenant Morgan announced, his voice steady despite the tension. "Quantum uncertainty generators at full power." Maya nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. They had positioned 27 ships in a complex three-dimensional pattern, each vessel equipped with the experimental generators. At the center of their formation, a massive Aetherian crystalline structure pulsed with accumulated energy, the focal point for their desperate gambit. "Time to wave contact," she asked. 17 minutes, Dr. Chen reported from her station. "The good news is our calculations were correct. It's following the exact path we predicted. The bad news is it's about 30% stronger than our worst-case estimates." Through the quantum comlink, High Commander Telvan's crystalline form shimmered into view. "The Aetherian Consciousness Network is prepared, Captain. 3,000 of our strongest quantum sensitives are linked and ready to channel the energy." Maya took a deep breath. Everything they had worked for came down to this moment. If their plan failed, billions would die as the wave consumed the Aetherian core worlds. If it succeeded, well, they were about to attempt something unprecedented in the history of either species. "Begin primary sequence," she ordered. "All ships, activate your uncertainty fields." The space around them came alive with impossible energies, where Aetherian technology normally created precise, geometric patterns of quantum manipulation. The human-designed generators spewed forth chaos, deliberate, controlled, but chaos nonetheless. Maya watched as the energy fields began to interconnect, guided by the linked consciousness of thousands of Aetherians. "Wave approaching critical distance," Sarah reported. "Fields are holding stable. Well, as stable as quantum chaos can be." Through the viewport, Maya could see the quantum wave now, a curtain of writhing energy that distorted the very fabric of space-time. Stars seemed to bend and twist in its presence, light itself becoming uncertain of its path. "All ships hold position," she commanded. "Remember your training. Don't try to fight the chaos. Ride it, like surfing a wave. Let the Aetherian network guide the energy." The first tendrils of the wave reached their outer sensor perimeter. Maya felt a subtle vibration through the deck plates as reality itself began to fluctuate. On nearby ships, Aetherian crew members' crystalline forms resonated with the approaching energy. "Quantum coherence is starting to break down." Sarah's fingers flew across her console. "Just like we planned. The wave is trying to consume our chaos, but there's no pattern for it to latch onto." Now, Telvan's voice rang through the command channel. Channel all power to the focal point. Maya watched in awe as thousands of Aetherian minds worked in perfect synchronization, guiding the chaotic energy from the human generators through their crystalline technology. The massive structure at the center of their formation blazed with light as it absorbed and redirected the power. The quantum wave struck their defensive line like a tsunami hitting a breakwater. For a terrifying moment, Maya thought it would simply overwhelm them through sheer force. But then something remarkable happened. Where the wave touched their chaotic energy field, it began to fragment. Like a river hitting a series of carefully placed obstacles, its coherent force broke apart into countless smaller streams. The Aetherian consciousness network guided these fragments, using them to create even more chaos. "It's working," Sarah shouted, her professional composure finally breaking. "The wave is consuming our chaos, but the chaos is consuming it right back. It's a feedback loop." Through the quantum comm, Maya could see Telvan's patterns pulsing with intense concentration. The network is holding. Never in our history have we attempted to channel such disorder. It's beautiful in its own way. The battle raged for hours, though time itself seemed uncertain in the quantum maelstrom. Human technology generated ever more complex patterns of chaos, while Aetherian minds wove that chaos into a weapon against the dimensional invasion. Slowly, inexorably, the wave began to dissipate. "Wave coherence down to 40%, Sarah reported, exhaustion evident in her voice. 30%, 20. It's beginning to collapse under its own chaos." Maya allowed herself to breathe as the readings confirmed what her eyes could see. The quantum wave was dissolving, its energy dispersing harmlessly into the background radiation of space. They had done it. "All ships, maintain positions until we confirm complete dissipation," she ordered. "Status of the Aetherian network." "Strained but holding," Telvan responded. His patterns showed fatigue, but also something else, a kind of exhilaration. "Captain Rodriguez, Dr. Chen, I don't think any of us truly believed this would work until this moment. That's humanity's secret weapon." Sarah smiled. "We believe in impossible things so hard we sometimes make them possible." As the last remnants of the wave faded away, Maya looked out at the combined fleet. Human ships, ugly and utilitarian by Aetherian standards, floated alongside the crystalline beauty of their allies' vessels. Together, they had done something neither species could have accomplished alone. "High Commander," she said, "I believe this proves that our alliance has potential beyond just defensive measures. Your people's mastery of quantum mechanics, combined with our creative approach to physics, could revolutionize both our civilizations." Telvan finished, his patterns showing agreement. Perhaps that was the true purpose of these waves, to force us to look beyond our own limitations. As the fleet began powering down their generators, Maya couldn't help but smile. Humanity had come a long way from its first stumbling steps into space. They had taken their disadvantages, their inability to naturally sense quantum fields, their need to brute force solutions, and turned them into strengths. And in doing so, they had taught one of the most advanced species in the galaxy that sometimes the best way forward wasn't the most elegant or perfect path, but the one that dared to embrace chaos itself. Legacy of Two Worlds. 1 year after the quantum wave crisis, the Convergence Research Station had tripled in size. Where once it had been a hastily assembled emergency facility, it now stood as a symbol of permanent cooperation between humanity and the Aetherian collective. Its halls buzzed with activity as members of both species worked side by side, each learning from the other's unique perspective on the universe. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the newly completed Quantum Dynamics Laboratory, watching as a group of human and Aetherian students collaborated on their latest experiment. The sight would have been unthinkable just a year ago. Crystalline beings floating alongside humans in environmental suits, all focused on a device that combined elegant Aetherian engineering with deliberately chaotic human design elements. Still finding it hard to believe, Captain Maya Rodriguez asked, joining her at the observation window. She had transferred to diplomatic duties after the crisis, serving as Earth's primary liaison to the Etherian High Council. Sometimes, Sarah admitted, a year ago, they wouldn't even acknowledge that our primitive understanding of quantum mechanics had any value. Now look at them. Through the window, they watched as an Etherian student used their natural quantum sensitivity to fine-tune a human-designed chaos field, while their human counterparts monitored the effects on specialized equipment. The resulting energy pattern was unlike anything either species had created before, a perfect blend of order and chaos. The latest reports from the defensive network are promising, Maya said. No sign of new quantum waves forming in any monitored sector. Whatever was causing those dimensional breaches seems to have gotten the message that this region of space is off-limits. Or maybe we changed something fundamental about how our universe interacts with others, Sarah mused. The Etherians' latest theories suggest that our combined technology might be actually stabilizing the dimensional boundaries, making breaches less likely. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of High Counselor Zareth and Kelleran, now promoted to Chief of Interspecies Research. Their crystalline forms pulsed with excited patterns that both humans had learned to recognize as good news. The Council has approved the expansion proposal, Zareth announced without preamble. Construction of 5 new joint research facilities will begin within the month. And more importantly, we've approved the Knowledge Exchange Initiative. Sarah's eyes widened. You mean? Full access to our quantum engineering database, Kelleran confirmed, his patterns showing pride and anticipation. In exchange for comprehensive documentation of human chaos theory and its practical applications, the Council believes it's time to formally combine our scientific traditions. Maya whistled low. That's a big step for your people, High Counselor. I remember a time not too long ago when sharing such knowledge with primitive species would have been unthinkable. Much has changed. Zareth's patterns shifted to a contemplative blue. The quantum wave crisis taught us many things, not least of which was the danger of assuming we had reached the pinnacle of understanding. Your species showed us that there are many paths to knowledge, and that what we perceived as primitive might simply be different. And sometimes different is exactly what's needed, Sarah added, thinking of how their primitive approach had saved billions of lives. Indeed, Kelleran agreed. Already, the application of human chaos theory to our traditional quantum engineering has yielded remarkable advances. Our new hybrid drives are 30% more efficient than our previous designs, and the medical applications of controlled quantum uncertainty are revolutionizing our approach to crystalline healing. Not to mention what your quantum sensitivity training has done for our scientists, Maya pointed out. Having Etherian instructors teach our people to recognize and work with quantum fields, even if we can't sense them naturally. It's opened up whole new avenues of research. Through the observation window, they watched as the student experiment reached its conclusion. The combined human-Etherian team had successfully created a sustained quantum matrix that exhibited both perfect structural stability and controlled chaos, something that would have been considered impossible a year ago. You know what impresses me most, Sarah said, watching the students celebrate their success. Look at them. They're not thinking about human methods or Etherian methods anymore. They're just exploring, finding new ways to understand the universe together. As it should be, Zareth's pattern showed satisfaction. Which brings us to the other reason for our visit. The Council has been discussing the establishment of a permanent joint scientific academy, a place where both our species can learn from each other, formally combining our different approaches to understanding reality. Maya's eyes lit up. You want to create a school that specifically teaches both methods. That's huge. More than that, Kelleran added. We want to create a new field of study entirely. One that embraces both the precise manipulation of quantum states and the deliberate introduction of controlled chaos, a true synthesis of our scientific philosophies. We're calling it quantum chaos engineering, Zareth said, her patterns showing what Sarah had learned to recognize as amusement. though some of our more traditional council members needed some convincing about the name. "It's perfect," Sarah laughed. "Completely contradictory and totally logical at the same time. Just like our alliance." Looking out at the students again, Sarah reflected on how far they'd come. The quantum wave crisis had forced both species to confront their assumptions and limitations. Humans had learned that their brute force approach to physics, while effective, could be refined and enhanced by Aetherian precision. The Aetherians, in turn, had discovered that their perfect understanding of quantum mechanics had blind spots that only human creativity could fill. "You know," Maya said thoughtfully, "a year ago, if someone had told me that humanity's greatest contribution to advanced physics would be teaching it how to be messy and chaotic, I'm not sure I would have believed them. And if someone had told me that the key to advancing Aetherian science was to embrace imperfection," Kelran's patterns flickered with mirth, "I would have questioned their quantum stability." "Perhaps that's the greatest lesson in all of this," Zareth observed. "The universe is vast and full of mysteries. No single species, no matter how advanced, can hope to understand it all alone. But together," her patterns shifted to a deep, resonant gold, "together, we might just begin to grasp its true complexity." As if to emphasize her point, the student experiment flared with new energy, order and chaos dancing together in perfect harmony, lighting up the laboratory with possibilities that neither humans nor Aetherians had imagined before their peoples met. It was, Sarah thought, a perfect metaphor for their alliance. Two species, separated by biology, philosophy, and their very understanding of physics, had found strength in their differences. And in doing so, they had not only saved themselves but opened up new frontiers of discovery that would benefit both their civilizations for generations to come. The legacy of the quantum wave crisis wasn't just survival, it was the birth of something entirely new. A future where humanity's chaos and Aetherian order worked together to unlock the deepest secrets of reality itself. And that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all.